Okay, good evening, folks. Tonight we have a special guest. We have Robinson Smith, who's here to join us and talk about the Smith Maneuver. Rob is a former investment advisor, and he's currently a personal finance educator and trainer for the Smith Maneuver. He worked with his father, Fraser. Fraser pioneered the process, and he's the author of the book that you see on the screen, "Master Your Mortgage for Financial Freedom," the Smith Maneuver. So, welcome, Rob. I'm very pleased to have you here. Um, and I'll turn the floor over to you. It's yours. I've already set it up for sharing, so you're good.
All right. Well, thank you, Rob. I appreciate the invite. Always happy to speak about this subject. It is near and dear to my heart, considering it was pioneered by my father many years ago. Yeah, back in the mid 80s. So we're talking 40 years ago or so. My dad became a financial planner, in the mid 80s, and he was interested in the fact that the Americans could deduct a good portion of their mortgage interest where we Canadians could not. And of course, that wasn't fair. So, so Dad set about to read the Tax Act, which is a fantastic read if you're trying to get to sleep, pick it up. But what Fraser ended up doing is basically just taking a bunch of pieces of different puzzles, the tax puzzle, mortgage puzzle, investing puzzles. And he took a few pieces from each and just mashed it all together to make a new puzzle, which he subsequently called the Smith Maneuver. And this was a way to level the playing field, like I said, so that we Canadians could deduct the interest on our mortgage. That has been a very large and expensive problem for Canadians for many, many years. And in fact, if we had the option to have tax deductible mortgages or the capital gains exemption in Canada, we would probably, in many cases, prefer to have tax deductible mortgages rather than be able to take advantage of the capital gains exemption on the sale of our principal residence. But the Smith maneuver actually gave Canadians a leg up compared to our American cousins because now we can both write off the interest on our mortgages, but we still maintain the capital gains exemption. So it's a very powerful, unique strategy which can really help a lot of Canadian homeowners get ahead in times that are not easy. And I don't have to tell any of you about these strange days that we're living in, but it's just getting more and more expensive and more difficult to get ahead or stay ahead. So that was my father, Fraser. He ended up writing his book, Is Your Mortgage Tax Deductible? That came out in 2002. He went back into advising in 2005. I joined him in 2006. And we were doing strictly Smith maneuvers for our clients. We each had our own separate practice. We had well over 500 families as clients. Dad passed away in 2011. I kept on advising until 2018 when I decided it was time to sell my business so that I could write my book, which for those of you who were here earlier enough, you saw on the screen, but here it is. I happen to have one right in front of me. Master Your Mortgage for Financial Freedom came out in November 2019, hit number one in, I think, 22 categories on Amazon upon launch. That might not be the only time you folks hear me brag, but it did very well, still doing very well. Um, every once in a while, I'll notice it's number one in mortgages or number one in tax accounting, that sort of thing. So, um, very pleased with the success of the book because that means Canadians are reading it and Canadians are getting educated about how they have the opportunity to turn their biggest liability, which is their mortgage, into their biggest asset. And we are going to talk about that today. So I'm just going to share the screen here. Share sound. How's that looking, Rob? All good?
Yep, looking good.
All right, perfect. So we're going to talk today about how you can master your mortgage for financial freedom by using the Smith maneuver. Uh, this is a financial strategy which is designed for typical Canadians, average Canadians. It's not here to help the very wealthy get more wealthy. It's here to help average Canadians who work, have families, struggle with their tax bill. They always have this mortgage payment hanging over their head. This is for those Canadians to help them get ahead. What are our biggest concerns? Well, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. Job security is increasing. Economic uncertainty is increasing. Government spending is questionable. I don't even think questionable is the right word. Some of the things that our governments at various levels spend our money on would be infuriating if it weren't laughable. We have a very, very large problem in Canada. Not that it's exclusive to Canada, but our tax dollars are wasted every day. And these taxes are increasing. We are regularly in the top 5 highest tax paying citizenry on the planet. Almost half of our taxes, in some cases, almost half of our income, in some cases, more than half of our income, go to all the various levels of government in taxation. Federal tax, provincial, municipal, tax at the pump and in the grocery store, tax everywhere. Pension security, unlikely. Uh, a few Canadians may be fortunate enough to have a pension program at their work. Most Canadians do not have it. Even if you do have it and been paying attention, you'll notice that a lot of pensions from companies have been switching from defined benefit to defined contribution, and that is to the detriment of the employee, right? So a lot of uncertainty out there. Increasing your wealth feels very, very difficult. We've always got inflation, which is eroding your hard-earned wealth. Recently, not so long ago, we had quite high inflation, and then it started coming down, and people were getting excited about that, and 3%, 2%. We have to remember, though, that even if it is 2%, the value of our money is eroding. So we're always subject to the erosion of our wealth. And we're facing more expenses by the day. We're single, we get married, we have children. So all these different expenses in life, we just keep on getting more and more different types of expenses, and they all keep on costing more, right? We know it's not cheap out there. Salaries are becoming less efficient. Wage increases are lagging behind, and the amount we pay in tax is now more than we pay for food, clothing, and shelter combined. Those of you who paid attention in high school will remember Maslow's hierarchy of need. The three basic things that we need to simply continue breathing are food, clothing, and shelter. And we pay half of our income in tax, and we've got the rest to take care of the basic necessities of life. Mortgage and home ownership costs are skyrocketing. But when we do finally pluck up the courage to go see a financial professional to ask advice, how can we improve our situation? Well, we typically hear the same sorts of things. Um, I think, Rob, maybe we have some background noise. I don't know if someone hasn't muted their mic, but anyways, we hear the same type of advice. Well, I've had a look at your situation and I've decided that in order to get ahead, you need to invest more. I've also decided that you need to max out your registered contributions. You should also prepay your mortgage as much as you can. You should also get rid of your car loan and your personal line of credit. Well, the problem with all of these traditional strategies is that they require more money. They require more money from people. And for a lot of people, there simply isn't any more money at the end of the month. Mortgage, taxes, childcare, grocery, bills, right? So it's very, very difficult to get ahead. So what we're talking about here tonight is for people, Canadians who own their own home, have a mortgage, and don't like it. Now, I'm pretty sure that everybody who has a mortgage doesn't like the fact that they have a mortgage, but we can turn this mortgage into your best friend, right? But let's talk about the true cost of a mortgage. If you have a $400,000 mortgage, and I know some of you living in Toronto or Vancouver or Ottawa are like, I wish I had a $400,000 mortgage, right? I got an $800,000 mortgage. But if you only have a $400,000 mortgage at 4.5% over 25 years, and you're at the 38% marginal tax rate, how much do you have to earn before you're able to pay back that $400,000? Well, you have to earn almost $1.1 million. Why? Because you borrowed $400,000, you have to pay back $400,000. But while you're doing that, you also have to pay interest That's the price you pay for doing business with the bank. But before you can make that payment each month, comprised of principal plus interest, you have to pay tax on your income. So this is the math that Canadians do not like to do, and it's very understandable. It's horrible. It's horrible news. Very, very expensive. And we Canadians, we typically have two pressing financial goals. One, we've got this big, ugly, stinking mortgage. We want to get rid of it, rightly so. But we also don't want to have to work for the rest of our lives. We want to be able to slow down at some point, if we wish, or retire completely. So we've got these two goals, but we approach them sequentially because we've only got limited resources at the end of the month. And we have to decide what we do with that money. And if we do not put money aside for our retirement, absolutely nobody cares. We do not get in trouble, right? But if we don't make our mortgage payment, we do get in trouble. Someone comes knocking on our door. You owe us money, right? So that's what we do. We prioritize, because of limited resources, paying off our expensive mortgage at the expense of not preparing for retirement. And that is expensive. Waiting to be mortgage free before you prepare for retirement will mean missing out on the power of compound growth. So we've got all this inflation, high expenses, a weighty mortgage, lagging salaries, very little at the end of each month, if anything, to invest for our future. High taxes are eroding what we have to spend on a monthly basis. And we're forced to prioritize our mortgage and current expenses rather than investing for our future. And these points here can lead to some pretty nasty places, right? You hit retirement age, you do the math, you don't have the money because you've been concentrating on paying down your mortgage. You haven't been investing for your future. So you have to downsize. You have to leave the house where you raise the kids and the grandkids and you love your little garden and your pond. Sorry, you got to sell it and you got to move to a condo. Or maybe you become financially dependent on your children, living in their basement suite as a retiree, living on a small fixed income. A lot of us, if not all of us, will know at least one person who lives in their house, clear title, nice house, no mortgage, they paid it off, but they have to watch what they spend. They got CPP, OAS, they can't afford to travel, they can't afford to have fun in their retirement. Continue working well into your retirement years. You walk into a Costco, McDonald's, all these big box shops, and you'll start to notice there's a lot of senior citizens working there. And they're there because they have to be there, not because they want to be there. They'd rather be golfing, trust me. Or we're forced to take out a reverse mortgage. Okay, and if you understand what a reverse mortgage this is a simplified explanation, but basically you get a house, you get a mortgage, and you pay that off over the course of 25, 30, maybe 40 years. And finally, you paid off your mortgage completely on the day that you retire. You do the math, because you've been concentrating on paying off your mortgage, you don't have savings for your retirement. What do? You take out a reverse mortgage the next day after you retired, have paid off that mortgage. You get a big lump sum of money and you don't have to make payments on it, but you've worked for the bank for 35, 40 years. You were free of it one day, and then you start selling the house back to the bank. So, not nice places to be. We as Canadian homeowners need a solution that is going to help us get rid of that mortgage as fast as possible. It's going to reduce our tax burden. We already know we pay too much tax in Canada. And it's going to allow us to invest in our future early and often. But we have to first start thinking like an investor. We have to make maybe a bit of a mind shift here. And that starts with the concept of debt. Debt is important, right? Not all debt is bad. Despite what you may feel in your bones, despite what people may have told you all your life, not all debt is bad. There's two types. Non-deductible debt destroys wealth, and it is expensive to borrow, and it's used to buy depreciating assets, motorcycles, boats, trailers, camper vans, right? It's expensive to borrow it because if my loan statement says I'm paying 12%, I'm actually paying 12% on that money. And the asset, quote unquote, that I just bought with that borrowed money depreciates in value. As soon as I buy that car, the value goes down. Same with all these other toys that we're buying, right? So it's expensive, and the assets you're buying with it decline in value. However, deductible debt creates wealth. It is relatively inexpensive to borrow and to carry, and it is used to buy appreciating assets, investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, mix, REITs, investment real estate, right? All these assets that have a reasonable likelihood of increasing in value over time, because I've borrowed to invest with a reasonable expectation of generating income from these investments, I get to deduct the interest. So if I'm at the 50% marginal tax rate and my loan statement says I'm paying 12%, I'm really only paying 6%. Plus, the asset I bought with that money is going to increase in value over time. Your home is the exception to these rules here because we can reasonably expect the value of our house to appreciate over time, which sounds like deductible debt, right? Used to buy appreciating assets, but the debt is not tax deductible, characteristic of non-deductible debt. Now, the wealthy understand these two types of debt very, very well. It is one of the main reasons they are wealthy. They do not avoid debt, they use debt to their advantage. Okay? So we know the difference of the two types of debt now. We know our home is the exception. We like the fact that we can expect it to increase in value over time. We do not like the fact that it's non-deductible, but we're going to solve that problem. But we have to realize that equity is your superpower. Investors understand this. Equity is a tool. Unproductive equity equals negative return. Each month when I make a mortgage payment, the amount that I owe that bank is going down, which means the amount of the home that I own, if you will, is increasing. My equity is increasing as my mortgage loan is decreasing. But if I'm not putting that equity to work, I'm earning 0% on that equity. In fact, less than that because of inflation. So it feels good to see that mortgage balance come down, but it should not feel good to see that equity increase because the more equity you have, the more available funds that you're earning a negative return on. Your mortgage is an investment opportunity, but you need to invest it now rather than to consume it in retirement. And what I mean by that is, if I can access the equity as fast as I'm creating it, starting now when I'm as young as I'm ever going to be, if I can access that equity and invest it each and every month, I get to enjoy the power of compound growth. By the time I hit retirement or close to it, I've got this big pot of investments I can start to draw income from it. But if I do not, if I retire and I'm finally mortgage free and I'm living in $1 million house, I've got all this equity that's been doing nothing for me. I sign up for a reverse mortgage. I take the equity out from the lender, but now I'm consuming it because I need to pay for my life. So I'd rather invest it now rather than consume that equity later. And the Smith Maneuver starts today. All the benefits start immediately, they happen simultaneously. And the best part is it requires no additional cash flow from the homeowner on a monthly basis. You'll recall about those traditional pieces of investment advice that we hear from everybody. Pay down your mortgage more, invest more, right? Get rid of your debt. Those all require additional cash flow. The Smith Maneuver does not. You do not have to get a second job. You do not have to decrease your lifestyle. What is the process? Very first step, you need the right type of financing. You need a readvanceable mortgage. And there's tons of them out there. All the different lenders have a readvanceable mortgage, but trust me, they are not all created equal. If you just go to your bank and say, I want to do the Smith Maneuver, set me up with a readvanceable mortgage, chances are very good you are getting the wrong readvanceable for this strategy. But you talk to a Smith Maneuver certified professional, a mortgage broker, you get put into the right readvanceable mortgage, then what happens? Well, you continue to make a mortgage payment like you were before. That doesn't change. You got a mortgage, you got to make a mortgage payment. But this special type of mortgage, and we'll demonstrate it in a bit, when you make a payment against that principal balance and it reduces, let's say $1,000, you can borrow back that $1,000. The limit on the associated HELOC, home equity line of credit, increases dollar for dollar. I pay it down, I can borrow it back. What do I do with those reborrowed funds? I invest something with a reasonable expectation that will generate income. Because I'm borrowing to invest, I can deduct the interest that I'm paying on that HELOC. And at tax time, I send in my tax return noting all these tax deductions, and the government says, oh, geez, we took too much off your paycheck every 2 weeks. We owe you money back. and you use that tax refund, which gets bigger and bigger and bigger each year, exponentially, you use that additional cash flow that just came from the government to make an extra payment against your mortgage, right? And you pull that out to invest as well. So on a monthly basis, you're making your mortgage payment, pulling out the equity that you create to invest. Tax time, you deduct all that interest, you get tax savings, you make an extra payment against your mortgage, you pull that amount out as well to invest. You do this on an ongoing basis. So here's a typical mortgage. We all know what this looks like. We go to the bank, we say, hey, we got a down payment in my pocket here. I want to borrow $400,000 from you so I can buy my house. Sure. And it's just one lump sum of $400,000 that you're going to pay over the course of 25 years. But the mortgage you need is a readvanceable. And as I mentioned, there's a bunch of different ones out there. They function different, have different characteristics, prepayment penalty allowances, all that sort of stuff. This is what our professionals fully understand to help guide you with your financing. But effectively, it works like this. You've got that same mortgage, that $400,000 mortgage balance, right? You had that before you financed into the one that works for the Smith Maneuver, and you still got it. But you've also got a line of credit, a HELOC, home equity line of credit, which is attached, right? They speak to each other, these sides of the mortgage. And whenever this balance goes down, you make a mortgage payment or an extra payment, whatever the case may be, whenever that goes down, the limit on the line of credit increases and you pull it out to invest. So in this example, on a $400,000 mortgage, I've got a $2,214 mortgage payment. $1,486 of that is going to go to interest to the bank, non-deductible. That 1486 is gone. Goodbye. I never see it again. It's gone. However, 728 does reduce principal. Right? We're starting to see why mortgages are so expensive. 1486 disappears. 728 reduces the amount that I owe to the bank on that mortgage. And the line of credit says, oh, we see that it came down over here. We're going to increase the limit over here on the line of credit by $728. I pull it out. I invest it. I do that every month. What do I do with those borrowed funds? I do not, even though I'd love to drive a Lamborghini, go out and buy one. I do not buy cars. I do not buy motorcycles, clothes. I don't buy steak. Um, I don't buy anything that does not qualify for deductible interest. I buy investments, right? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds. I went through a partial list earlier. There's a ton of different things you can invest which will qualify for deductible interest. You do that each and every month. Pay it down, borrow it back. Pay it down, borrow it back. Pay it down, borrow it back. Get your tax savings at the end of each year. You use those as an extra payment against the mortgage. Pull that out to invest as well. Pretty soon, you've replaced your non-deductible expensive mortgage debt with relatively inexpensive 100% tax deductible investment loan. 100% deductibility means bigger tax refunds, significant tax refunds each and every year as long as you carry this debt and the asset. Annual mortgage prepayments with those annual tax savings means you're out of that non-deductible mortgage debt much quicker. And if you're out of it quicker, you are paying less in non-deductible interest on that loan. So you pay less overall. You've taken advantage of compound growth because this, over time, this balance has been invested, right? Each and every month. So what's the Smith Maneuver worth? The plain Jane Smith Maneuver is, which is what we just looked at there. It's simply using the mortgage payment that you're already making. You're already making it. You're not doing anything different other than structuring the flow of funds. And we are regularly seeing a typical mortgage these days, hundreds of thousands. So $300,000 to $400,000 net worth improvement over the course of a typical 25-year amortized mortgage. So over 25 years, you would finally be mortgage free with zero investments. But here with the Smith Maneuver, you've gotten rid of that mortgage, 2 to 3 years earlier. Plus, you've got a net improvement of $300,000 to $400,000, all for just using the mortgage payment that you're already paying, right? And this is just the plain Jane strategy. This is simply the Smith Maneuver at its most basic. And again, no new cash is required on a monthly basis. But we have the ability to accelerate the results of the Smith Maneuver with, we call them accelerators. And we're regularly seeing, again, net worth improvements of upwards or over $1 million over a 25-year AM, mortgage freedom 18 years or earlier, like 18 years earlier than 25 years. So many, many years off. What are these accelerators? There's the debt swap. So I've spoken to an SMC, a Smith Manoeuvre certified professional mortgage broker. They get me into the right type of mortgage. Um, and I can start this process, the plain Jane Smith Maneuver, make a mortgage payment, pay it down, pull it back out in it, and invest. But my SMCP says, well, hey, I noticed that you've got $10,000 worth of investments over here. Let's just call them mutual funds, right? You say, yeah, I've been saving up. I got $10,000 in mutual funds. Well, you know what you could do is you could sell those $10,000 in mutual funds for cash, take that 10 grand, make a payment against your mortgage of that full 10 grand. And as we know, if this goes down, this limit opens up. So I pay down my bad debt by $10,000. I can borrow back that $10,000, and I do 3 to 4 days later. And I can buy the exact same investment that I just redeemed, or I can buy a different one, or I can go half into the one I sold and half into something new. But and there's things I'm going to want to watch out for: capital gains upon redemption, superficial loss, all that sort of stuff. This is why we have our SMCPs to help you with all this stuff. But effectively, what do I have after I execute the debt swap? I still have $10,000 worth of investments like I did before. I still have $400,000 worth of mortgage debt, 390 plus the 10, but I've significantly sped up the rate at which I'm going to be gone from this non-deductible mortgage debt. And I've increased the rate at which my tax deductions are going to increase. What about the cash flow diversion? Well, let's say I'm in the fortunate position that each month I have a bit extra money that I don't require to feed my life, right? And I say to my investment company, I want you to come into my bank account each month and invest $300. Just take it right out. I don't want to see it. Just go get it invested. So my income comes into my bank account. The investment company comes in, takes $300 to get it invested each and every month. Great, fantastic. I'm doing something for my future. But there's a better way, which I'm sure you have guessed. Because what I can do is say, hold on, don't come in on the first of every month. Because when my income comes into my bank account, I'm first going to take that $300 and make an extra payment against my mortgage. This is in addition to your regular mortgage payments, paying it down each and every month, but you're also now making an additional $300 payment. And 100% of that payment goes against principal, none to interest. So it's very efficient. And again, we know that if I pay this down by 300, this is going to open up by 300. So then I pull it out and then I get it invested. I'm still putting $300 a month away in investments, but I'm really speeding up $300 a month extra. I'm speeding up how fast this mortgage bad debt goes away, how fast I'm accelerating the generation of tax deductions, and I'm still investing. And it hasn't cost me anything out of pocket because I was already investing that $300 a month. I still am, but now I'm really generating some tax benefits by implementing this accelerator. The drip accelerator. So all these investments I'm making on a monthly basis, annual basis with my tax savings, they're getting put into this investment pot. And if I have the ability, my investments have the ability to generate dividends, great. What a lot of investors do is they say, you know what, whether it's monthly, quarterly, annually, whatever it is, my dividends, I don't want to see them. I don't want to see them in cash. I want you to automatically buy me more shares of the stock that's generating the dividends, or buy me more units of the fund, or whatever. They come out for a split second and then boom, they go to buy you more units of the investment. But now that I'm set up correctly and I'm doing the Smith maneuver, I'm going to implement the drip accelerator. And whenever those dividends are generated, I'm going to say I do want to see them in cash because I'm going to apply them as an extra payment against my mortgage. And of course, as this goes down, this goes up. Then I pull that $300 back out and buy the exact same investment that sent me the dividend, or buy a different one. I've got a lot of options there. But I'm still getting $300 of dividends. I'm still reinvesting those dividends. But first, I'm getting rid of my bad debt mortgage much quicker than otherwise. Prime the pump accelerator. A, a mortgage lender, when we're talking about a readvanceable mortgage, they will lend up to a maximum of 80% loan to value, right? So if I've got a $500,000 house at 80%, the mortgage lender says, we'll lend you a maximum of $400,000. And I say, that's fine. because that's all I need. The mortgage that I currently have, which does not work for the Smith maneuver, is $400,000. Perfect. So now I get my new mortgage. They pay out my old lender, and now I owe my new lender this $400,000. So nothing changed. I still have that $400,000 mortgage, but now I can implement the Smith maneuver. Yet, considering that I borrowed the total amount that they're willing to lend me, 80%, they don't give me anything available on this line of credit right off the bat. So I make my next mortgage payment, 728 goes down. This opens up by 728, and I proceed to invest that. And I proceed to do that each and every month. But what if my house does not appraise at 500, it appraises at $600,000? 80% of 600,000 is 480,000. That's what they're willing to lend me, 480 grand. But I only need 400 to pay out my non-functioning mortgage, which, and we're ignoring the 65% HELOC rule here just for ease of explanation. Won't go into that, but basically they're going to say, we're willing to lend you more than you're taking to pay out your old mortgage. So we're going to give it available to you on that line of credit. So now in this case, I've got $80,000 of immediately available credit. Now, I do not have to do anything with that. I don't have to invest any of it. I can invest some, or I can invest all of it. This is a discussion I have with my SMCP investment advisor, my tax professional. But if I do use some or all of this, I am not going to buy toys. I am not going to pull this 80 grand out and buy a Corvette. I'm not going to pull 80 grand out and go around the world 4 times. I'm not going to pull the 80 grand out and burn it in the fireplace, which I could do. I could pull out $80,000, throw all that cash in the fireplace and burn it. The lender doesn't care. They've got the house as security. What I am going to do is invest. Securities, new business, real estate. Now, let's say I've always wanted to be a landlord. Just didn't find a way until now. My SMCP showed me that, hey, you can get investment property. Fantastic. Now I have the opportunity, after priming the pump and using that to buy an investment property, I now have the ability to implement the cash flow dam accelerator. And you may hear it out there as rental cash damming. The reason we don't call it rental cash damming is because that is limiting. Because you do not have to own an investment property to implement the cash flow dam. You can own a proprietorship business that you operate out of your garage. Maybe you knit sweaters and sell them on the internet. The cash flow dam, you can implement this accelerator if you own a proprietorship, whether it's a business or a rental property. And here's how it works. Typically, when someone goes out and gets a rental property, they get all excited and they open up a bank account that they're only going to use for their rental property. So in this case, I know it's disappointing. We're looking at neutral revenue and expenses here. But let's say $2,000 comes in to my bank account from my renters, but it goes out because I got to pay expenses. I got a mortgage on the rental, property tax, maintenance, all these sorts of fun stuff. Money in, money out, and I wait until rents increase. Maybe I can get my costs down. Now I'm cash flow positive. A number of years down the road, the house will be worth more. Some of the mortgage balance will come down. I'll do all right. But there's a better way than just money in and money out. Because when my renter pays me my $2,000 each month, I can take that 2,000 and make an extra payment against my mortgage, the house in which I live, not my rental property. This is my house. So $2,000 comes in. I pay down an extra $2,000 above and beyond my regular mortgage payment, above and beyond the cash flow diversion, above and beyond the drip accelerator. These can all pile onto each other here. But that balance goes down by the 2,000 of rental receipts that I've made my payment against my mortgage as an extra payment. This becomes available over here on that line of credit. I reborrow it into my rental expense account, and then I pay the expenses on my rental property. I'm still getting 2,000 from my renter. I'm still making all payments on that property, but first I'm using an extra 2,000 bucks a month against my non-deductible mortgage balance. And this is where we see a 25-year AM go down to 5 or 6, because these are significant extra payments that are going against a significantly expensive loan, and in turn creating faster and faster growing tax refunds. So you'll have heard me say a couple of times during this that, excuse me, that this strategy requires no additional cash flow from the homeowner on a monthly basis. And the astute amongst you will say, well, hold on a sec, Smith, Before I'm doing the Smith maneuver, I got a monthly mortgage payment. After I start doing the Smith maneuver, I still have a monthly mortgage payment, but now I also have a monthly expense on that HELOC balance where I'm borrowing to invest each and every month. And if that payment is not coming out of my pocket, where the heck's it coming from? And the answer will astound and amaze you all. It lies in the increasing efficiency of the regular mortgage payment. So I've got a $400,000 mortgage. I make my payment to $2,214. Most of that goes to interest, in this case, $1,486. Goodbye, it's gone. But some reduces principal, $728. And as I know, if I pay down my mortgage by $728, I can borrow back $728. So I get that invested. The next month, I'm still making a $2,214 payment, but the amount that goes towards interest is less than the month previous, which means the amount that goes towards principal is more. 730 goes down. I can pull back 730. I do. I pull out that 730. The first thing that happens is that my lender says, hey, you owe us 1 month's interest on that $728 that you borrowed last month. Well, how much is that going to cost? $2. Okay, great. Take it. 730, they take their $2 in interest on that line of credit, which leaves 728 to invest. The next month, constant mortgage payment, but again, less to interest, meaning more to principal. I pull back 733. They say, hey, now you owe us interest on the first 2 months borrowing. How much is that? $5. Great, take it. They take it, and I have 728 to invest. And this process continues. Each subsequent month, the amount of my mortgage payment that reduces principal increases. Therefore, I can borrow out an increasing amount. Therefore, I have excess after I invest to service growing interest expense. So, cycle of benefits here. You're able to invest after you implement the strategy, money that you wouldn't otherwise have had available. Currently, you're not doing the Smith maneuver. All that money which is reducing principal is just sitting as dead equity in your house, earning you negative return. With the Smith maneuver, you can get that out and you can start investing it. You're generating valuable and increasing tax deductions each and every month. You'll notice your tax savings get higher and higher and higher and higher each subsequent year. You're able to eliminate your expensive mortgage in record time because of these tax savings. These benefits start now. They occur simultaneously. And again, no new cash is required from you on a monthly basis, which is what we just went through. Now, I've mentioned Smith Manoeuvre certified professionals. We're training up mortgage brokers, investment advisors, accountants, realtors, insurance brokers, all these different types of financial professionals, which may be required or optimal to have a look at your situation while you're refinancing, while you're buying your first home, while you're moving, whatever the case may be. When these events happen, you've got a chance to implement the Smith maneuver. And all of these people are either for certain involved or have an opportunity to be involved. Now, we've developed the Smithman calculator, and these SMCPs that we have across Canada are the only ones who have access to it. This is exclusive to our SMCPs. Now, Rob, if you could just raise your voice and let me know if you can or cannot hear my recorded voice. This is just a quick recording
Okay.
here. Oops. Wait a sec. What's going on? Where's play?
Okay, due to time constraints, this is going to be a very, very fast
Yeah,
demonstration.
we can hear it just fine, Rob.
Smithman calculator. So once in, I'm going to give it a name, this scenario, and we're going to head to the calculator. We can enter various types of income. I'm going to throw in $150,000 of employment income. I've also got a rental property proprietorship, and it generates $36,000 in rental revenues per year. And it costs me $34,000 a year to service the expenses on that rental property. I'm also going to input that I have $30,000 of mutual funds invested. And I've also got a $10,000 emergency fund. And down here we can see my marginal tax rate is 45.8%. I'm going to go to the next sheet. I'm going to fill in my house value at $750,000. The mortgage balance on that is currently $450,000. The interest rate is 2.9%. The amortization defaults to 25 years. On the readvanceable line of credit side of things, I've got a prime rate of 2.45 and a premium of 0.5% for a total of 2.95%. Next, I'm going to go to the fund page where we start to see results. I can throw in whatever I project my investment to grow at on an annual basis. We'll leave it at 8%. This is saying the very first month's mortgage payment leaves me $769 to invest. I'm going to go ahead and invest that all. Here's where we start to see some results. Taxation improvement, total deductions over the amortization of the mortgage of $109,000, which lead to total in tax refunds of $50,000. No amortization improvement yet, we'll see that soon, but a net worth improvement of $388,000 already at this point. Now here I can adjust the amount that I accept from the lender. They're willing to lend a total of $600, but I can move that up or down and we can see the results change. I won't go into an explanation on this right now, but let's just say I only want to accept $550,000 from the lender. So we've seen a bit of improvement in the results. Here's where we'll see amortization improvement. If I apply my annual tax refunds as a monthly prepayment against that an annual prepayment against that mortgage, and also reborrow that to invest, we'll see amortization improvement and also net worth improvement here. 2.33 years saved off my non-deductible mortgage, net worth improvement up to $551. The debt swap accelerator, I've got $30,000 that I already inputted in mutual funds. I'm going to go ahead and debt swap that and watch the results here. The years saved and net worth improvement. There we go. 4.6 years saved, net worth improvement of $791,000. I'm not going to input any future lump sums. What I'm going to do is debt swap my emergency cash. I'm going to secure a line of credit, a personal line of credit that I'm only going to use for emergencies. Therefore, I can debt swap this cash. I can prepay my mortgage and then get it invested. And we're going to see further results here. Cash flow diversion. Let's say I have been investing $300 on a monthly basis. That's how I built up my $30,000 in mutual funds. So I'm going to go instead apply that as a prepayment each month and then reborrow it to invest. 5.42 and 869 it goes to 8.42 and net worth improvement of $1.164 million. Cash flow dam accelerator. I previously entered my rental revenues and expenses, and that works out to $3,000 a month in revenues and expenses of $2,833. If I implement the cash flow dam accelerator, we're really going to want to watch this one here. Instead of saving 8.42 years off that mortgage at this point, I'm saving 18.25 years, which means my original 25-year amortized mortgage is going to be gone in 6.75 years. Dividend reinvestment plan accelerator, I won't go there at this moment. Prime the pump accelerator. Based on the numbers inputted, apart from that non-deductible mortgage debt when I refinance into a readvanceable mortgage, I've also got $100,000 of immediately available funds with which I can prime the pump. So I can withdraw some, all, or none of this if I wish, but if I do, I'm going to get this invested immediately. So if I pull $50,000 of this to prime the pump, then we'll watch the net worth improvement go from 1.3 to 1.7. Now I've saved 18.5 years off my mortgage. I've received total tax refunds over the course of the mortgage of $145,000. And again, instead of 25 years, that mortgage has gone in 6.5 years. So this net worth improvement, this is net worth improvement, meaning I've got an investment portfolio of $2.21 million offset by 100% tax deductible investment loan of $484,000, leaves a net improvement of $1.726 million. And the next screen here, that just shows the graph. The green line descending at 25 years to the x-axis is a 25-year amortization. This blue line hitting $0 is the reduced amortization of my mortgage. The red line over here is my investment portfolio. The yellow line is my total debt. And then I can view and print a report, which is going to summarize the results. It's also going to give me my instructions for the monthly process of the Smith Manoeuvre based on my numbers. So there you go, a quick demonstration of the Smith Man calculator. I hope you enjoyed.
Okay, we're back live now. Some of you will say, well, using 2.9 and 2.95% for your borrowing rates, come on, Smith, get with the times. And I will admit that that recording was done quite a while back when rates were around there. But what happens if we plug in higher rates? So 6% and 7.2 for the borrowing. Well, we can see a slight decline in net worth improvement, but we're still looking at 1.5 million. But look at the tax deductions. They double, they more than double. And I'm able to get rid of that non-deductible mortgage debt quicker from 6.5 years down to 5.83. So the nice thing about the Smith Maneuver is it works in high rates, it works in low rates. And the reason for that is when I'm in a high rate environment, maybe I can invest 900 bucks a month. But my tax refunds, my tax deductions, my refunds are significant because I'm in a high rate environment. Let's say rates come down. Well, my tax savings are no longer as significant as they were with higher rates, but instead of $900 to invest each month, I've got $1,000 to invest because rates have come down. So works in both environments. More resources. Okay, so smithman.ca is our website. You can get a copy of my book there. You can buy it. I'd love it if you did, but you don't have to. If you don't want to spend the money to buy the book, go to the library and check it out for free. Okay, just don't write in the margins. But the point is that you can educate yourself more on this, and that is the first step, is to learn a bit more about it. And then once you're ready, on our website, we've got right here, find a Smith Maneuver certified professional. Okay, and we can connect you with various types of SMCPs to help you get along on your Smith Maneuver journey. And I will reiterate, if someone is not a Smith Maneuver certified professional, please do not use them. And this, maybe you've got a brother who's a mortgage broker but not an SMCP. Please, don't use him. I know you'd like to help them out, but it's so important that you get this done right on the mortgage side, on the investing side, on the tax side. We've got SMCP tax professionals, investment advisors, all these different types of professionals who know each other. They're spread across the country. There's over 200 of them so far. They know each other so that your SMCP mortgage broker works with your SMCP investment advisor who works with your tax professional. They all speak the same language. They've gone through the same training. They have access to this network, this great big brain trust that goes across the country of all these different professionals who have seen it all. They've seen all the different things that you could see when someone is implementing the Smith Maneuver, and they all lean on each other when required. So it's a very valuable little network we've got going on. And that is that. So I'm going to stop share.
Thank you,
And
Rob. I've been monitoring the chat. We did get a couple of questions in. Jerry asked whether there are particular lenders who have the best readvanceable product for running the Smith maneuver.
and I'm going to go back to what I was saying through this presentation is that not all none of them are the same. And so that's why we have these SMCPs, so they can say, okay, let's get a look at your situation. You know what? This from this bank or this lender is the best one for you. And then they'll go and talk to your brother and his wife, and they're going to say that bank is best for you given your situation. So it's personal. It's very, very personal. And you simply cannot say one is the one that everybody should use.
We also had a question from somebody with specific mortgage example, and what I said in the chat is that the best thing to do is to make an appointment through your website, and that you'll set them up with an SMCP so that they can go over their particular situation and make the best recommendations.
Yeah, it's tough. Like someone can give me all the information that they will give an SMCP, and I still would not be able to provide advice. I'm not a licensed mortgage broker. I dropped my investment advisor license, so I'm not allowed to provide advice on the whole because you're technically not a client of mine. So I'd be able to give you a general idea, but as far as here's what you need to do, that will be your SMCP who's licensed to do that. Brokers are licensed to do the financing. Investment advisors are licensed to place or guide on the investments or create a plan. accountants are licensed to provide tax advice. And that's why it's so important to use an SMCP, because we've got all these different professionals within the network, like I said, who know each other and fully understand the strategy.
Awesome. Anybody else have any other questions? SMCP, Smith Maneuver Certified. Somebody was asking what SMCP is.
Smith Manoeuvre Certified Professional. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Rob?
How do we become a Smith Maneuver professional?
Ah, on the website, you'll see find a Smith Manoeuvre Certified Professional, but right up above that, you'll say become an SMCP. You'll see that and you click there and it'll go through the process of onboarding.
Approximately how much and how long does it take to become a money earner? Because I definitely don't want to go back to the federal government as an executive assistant.
Are you a financial professional, a mortgage broker, or
Not at all. I was an executive assistant, but I'm really set up. I have a HELOC, but I've not been able to max my HELOC because I established it in 2002, and now, of course, we're 2006.
yeah?
But
Well,
and what
we
does it take to increase my HELOC? I need a job to show the job the
this
go.
this is where the SMCP comes in, right? They deal with all sorts of financing challenges because everybody's different. Employment, income, credit, all of that. This is what they do for a living. So you'll speak to an SMCP mortgage broker, and what they are is an SMCP mortgage broker is a mortgage broker who is specifically trained in the Smith maneuver. So they know how to mortgage broker, but now they know how to do it specifically within the lanes of a Smith maneuver strategy. As far as becoming an SMCP, um, we only train people who are mortgage brokers, who are investment advisors, who are accountants, right? These are the people that are there to help people implement the strategy based on their specific profession. Uh,
Good. Anybody else?
Is it recommended to lend our HELOC as private loans? And how do I protect myself? Because even
aha.
Olympia Trust, they seem to really jump on people who are not paying their loans back fast.
This again, I know it can be frustrating, but I go back to the fact that you'd want to talk to a Smith Manoeuvre certified professional investment advisor about this. Can I use my HELOC to invest in private lending? You talk to an SMCP investment advisor and one of our accountants, right? Yes, you can, because no, you can't, because, and how do you protect yourself? This is what they do. So again, I know it can be frustrating because there's a lot of questions that people have all the time about their specific situation. And I have to say, go talk to an SMCP because I can only give general responses, not specific advice. But lots of people are using private lending, right? Um, it's just a matter of, is it right for you? And this is what a discussion will uncover.
How do I protect myself though? Because some people are not paying me back right now.
Well, that's a question for someone who specializes in private lending, I would imagine. That's not really a Smith maneuver question because the Smith maneuver opens up the ability to invest. What you invest in is up to you. It's up to you discuss when you have a discussion with your advisor or your tax professional or someone you trust. Um, and when you go into a specific type of investment, um, how do you protect yourself? Well, that is far outside of the Smith maneuver, right? That's investment specific, and there are people who know more about that than myself. Right?
Good. Any other questions? Or are
Yeah,
we calling it a night?
yeah. The point of this is to say, look, we can get you the money available to invest that otherwise you do not have. What you do with it is up to you. That's not a Smith maneuver um, question, or we don't have an answer for that because everybody is different. Some people love investing in real estate, whether it's on a regular basis into a MIC or a REIT or whole houses at a time. And some people do not trust real estate and they only want to go in the stock market, right? So all these different types of people, we've got the professionals in the network who understand that, but you need to talk to them first about what's best for me? What am I comfortable with? How do I protect myself?
Personalized financial planning. But how old were you when your father came up with this concept?
Oh, geez, I was born in 71 and I was probably 14 years old, something like that. So it's a long time ago. And of course, I didn't care. I'm 14 years old, growing up, teenager, and going to university. And I don't want to talk about work with you at dinner, Dad. I don't care what you do. Right. And then it was when I came back in 2006. Um, now I'm older and working for a living. And I was living in China for on and off for about 8 years in Beijing. And Dad says, you got to come home because your mom misses you. And so, I got tired of being in Beijing. It's 15 million people, and they're all staring at me at the same time because I'm 6'5". So yeah, I got a little old. I moved back, and that's when I started studying under Fraser and learning the strategy and sitting in on meetings and watching him talk to Canadians and watching them sit there like this, listening to Dad speak, and then gradually they do this. Pretty soon they're on the edge of his desk watching him draw and scribble and show the graphs and all that stuff.
That's funny.
Because when people get it, they get it. And like I said earlier, it's a bit of a mind shift with how do we approach debt? How do we feel comfortable with debt? Do we or can we even, right? Some people just can't, and that's fine. But it's interesting when it's explained to them by someone who knows how to explain it, the shift comes. And then it's just a matter of cementing that with further knowledge and reading and research and stuff, and then implement strategy and moving forward.
My
And once I
daughter is a crown procurement lawyer, and her and her husband actually own rental properties already, and in their 30s, late 30s. And when I spoke to her about that, she said, "Ah, it's a scam." I said, "Come on!" I said, "It's a Canadian who designed it. Look into it."
Well, everyone is free to believe what they wish. My hope is that even if their immediate thought is it's a scam or whatever, that they'll at least, for the sake of their future well-being, financial well-being, that at least they're the type of person to say, okay, if someone mentioned this to me, it means something to someone who I know. So I am going to look at it. Even if I think it's a scam, I'm going to look at it and then make my decision, right?
it really is a mindset shift. People have to understand that you can't solve problems with the same kind of thinking that got you into it. You have to start asking how can I instead of asking permission. Too many people say can I instead of trying to look for the solution and figuring out how they can do it. It was Henry Ford who said whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Right.
Because if you think you can't, you're dead in the water. You're not even starting.
Okay, so for
Oh,
whoever's interested, smithman.ca, as I said, um, have a look around, find the book somewhere, read it if you're interested, connect with us. We can help guide you through the whole process with our network of professionals.
I want to find an accelerated course in financial advisor. Where and how can I do that?
Well,
well,
yeah, securities course, I guess.
Well, at this point, Rob, thank you very much for your time tonight. We had a good turnout, and the session's being recorded, so I'm also going to post it. So everyone who was on will have a chance to review it and see it again. And other people who didn't have a chance to be here tonight, and I've got a list of people who said, "Rob, can I get a recording?" So yeah, we'll make sure that anyone who is looking for it can find it. Thank you so much for your time, Rob. Very much appreciated.
My pleasure,
Robert,
Rob.
can we send this recording to our children, husband?
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you
I,
very
I,
much.
I, I'm sure Rob doesn't mind the distribution.
No, get it out to anyone who might find it interesting.
Good. Well, on that
Okay,
note, guys, we will say good night. Take care.
Thanks a lot,
Thank,
Robert.
thank, thank you for joining tonight. Have a great evening.
bye everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Mr. Smith.
You're very welcome.
Stopping recording now.